A's doing? This trade is awful. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, they got a bunch of players, quantity over quality, years of control. Stop it. They just traded an all-star catcher in Sean Murphy and got back 4 non-top 100 prospects and Manny Pena. Oh yeah, and the Brewers are included in this, and they just got better giving up Esteury Ruiz. That's the only thing they gave up, and they got better. It makes absolutely no sense. I'm going to talk about that trade a little bit more, along with the Kodai Senga Brandon Nimmo, David Robertson signing with the Mets. Chris Bassitt goes to the Blue Jays. I didn't talk about Xander Bogaerts going to the Padres or Willson Contreras going to the Cardinals, and Sean Manaea signed with the Giants. There's a lot that's happened. I want to make sure I cover it all. I just can't even believe this Sean Murphy trade. It's unbelievable. It makes no sense for the A's. 0 cents. 0 cents. I feel like they let Fulcrum make this trade. It doesn't make any sense. But before I go into that, I want to give a quick shout out to today's video sponsor, Auction of Champions. You guys know Auction of Champions. They've been a sponsor of mine for a while now, and they're running a really cool promotion on their website today. Tonight only, December 12th, they're giving you $10 off any auction that you win on their website. And of course, there's a ton of great things available. Signed jerseys, graded cards, helmets, baseballs, whatever you need, Auction of Champions has it. So make sure you check out the link in the description for Auction of Champions and start bidding today. $10 off whatever auction you win on their special Monday auction. So here are the final details of the Sean Murphy trade. The Braves get Sean Murphy. Sean Murphy is really good. One of the best catchers in Major League Baseball, defensively, offensively. Don't tell me about the batting average. Don't care. The dude hits the ball hard. He plays great defense, and he's got control for the next 3 years, which are going to be his prime from age 28 to 31, basically. The Braves have him at a relatively cheap value. This is an upgrade. Travis d'Arnaud is good. I think Travis d'Arnaud is one of the better catchers in baseball. Sean Murphy is way better. Milwaukee, like I said, is just weirdly in this trade. They get Willson Contreras from the Braves. That's a really good pickup from them. He will be their everyday catcher, most likely. Really good hitter. On the catching side, that's yet to be determined. Not much of a defensive catcher, but at the plate, the dude can absolutely mash. He was an all-star last year. Like, yeah, the Braves gave up Contreras for sure, but it for some reason went to the Brewers. The Brewers got more value back in the Sean Murphy trade than the team that traded Sean Murphy. But let me finish what the Brewers got here. They also got Justin Yeager and Joel Payamps, who are going to be some bullpen type arms. Good trade for the Brewers, especially when all they gave up was Esteury Ruiz, who, let's be honest, is a utility man pinch runner with not a whole lot of ceiling in my eyes particularly. Amazing trade for the Brewers. Good trade for the Braves because, of course, you still did give up Willson Contreras, but Sean Murphy is better and has control and is really good. Now, as for the Oakland A's, who are unserious, this trade is ridiculous. It is, again, clearly quantity over quality, and there are some things that people are calling positives from this trade, but I'm giving the heaviest of air quotes because who cares? At some point, the A's need to keep their good players or at least get something back. There was not a single top 100 prospect in this trade. Not a single one. You get Kyle Muller from the Braves, Freddie Tarnok, Royber Salinas, and Manny Pena, along with Esteury Ruiz, like I mentioned, from the Brewers. Kyle Muller is the best piece in this trade. He is going to be a major league capable arm. He has 3 good pitches. He seems solid, but the ceiling is like, what, mid-level starter for Kyle Muller? And Oakland really hasn't developed pitchers in the last few years. Like, they've had Frankie Montas, Sean Manaea. Everybody else has kind of been disappointing if you think about it and go through the list of young pitchers that they've had. Chris Bassitt wasn't young. Paul Blackburn wasn't young. Like, they take these older pitchers and make them all right, but young pitching, they really haven't been able to develop at all. Freddie Tarnok also comes over. Tarnok. He was at AAA, has some decent stuff, has a good fastball, but again, like, what's the ceiling? What's the ceiling on this guy, realistically? Royber Salinas probably has the most intriguing profile just because he struck out almost 40% of the batters he faced in high A last year. Manny Pena. Are we really talking about a 35-year-old backup catcher? Manny Pena was one of the pieces. They did the Braves a favor taking Manny Pena. He was owed money. And then Esteury Ruiz, like I mentioned, what a tough name to say. Pinch runner, fast, can play a bunch of different positions. He's a great athlete, but there's just not much really on the offensive side that makes me excited. This trade makes 0 sense. Like, yeah, they were going to trade Sean Murphy, but you expected them to get a lot more back. Instead of quality, they went for quantity. And to me, it's nonsense. It's crazy. I feel like this shouldn't be allowed. Brewers got a lot better. Braves got a lot better. The A's got a lot worse. And you just traded an all-star catcher with 3 years of control. And all you got back was this? This is what the A's got back? This is nonsense. This is crazy. I'm so sorry, Oakland A's fans. I'm so sorry that this is your team. Do not show up to a game next year. If you're an Oakland A's fan, do not go. You should not support this team. You should not support this ownership, especially when they're moving you to Las Vegas. Stop going. Find a new team. I'm so sorry for you guys. The other big news that happened today was Chris Bassitt signing with the Toronto Blue Jays on a 3-year, $63 million deal. That sort of includes a no-trade clause. Bassitt gets to pick 8 teams a year that he will not be allowed to be traded to. But at 3 years, $63 million, that's fairly cheap. That's fairly affordable. It's a fair deal, I think, for both sides. Getting 3 years of control over Chris Bassitt, who looked really good last year. I know he kind of fell apart from the Mets in their biggest moments, but I have no real sour grapes toward him. I think Chris Bassitt's a good pitcher. He's a guy I would have have welcomed with open arms back to Queens for the Mets. He's really smart. He's a cerebral pitcher, and he's been relatively healthy. He gives you innings. Chris Bassitt's good. He goes into this rotation not expected to be an ace, just like he was with the Mets. He was like a 3-4 type starter. I feel like the talk of the town is obviously the Sean Murphy trade today, but this is a good little move for the Blue Jays, a team that needs more pitching, and they got some with Chris Bassitt, no doubt. So let's talk about these Mets. I'm so excited. This is a great time to be a Mets fan. The Mets were really good last year. Obviously, the season did not end well, but there were good things to take there. 101 wins, not something I've really ever seen in my lifetime from the Mets. They brought back Brandon Nimmo on an 8-year, $162 million contract, which to me was the most important player the Mets had to bring back this offseason. Yes, Jacob deGrom is the best pitcher in baseball, and yes, Jacob deGrom makes this team really good, but Brandon Nimmo was such an integral cog of this team, he had to come back. You just can't find center fielders that have that offensive value plus that glove in center field like you do with Brandon Nimmo. There's very few of them out there in Major League Baseball, and especially if you miss out on Brandon Nimmo, that means moving Starling Marte to center field, which means he probably ends up getting hurt more because, as we know, those muscle injuries are kind of a bit of a problem with him, and him playing in right field definitely gives him more longevity and more effectiveness than when we put him in center. There are not a lot of good options to fill that center field hole, and the Mets just got an elite center fielder. Yes, I'm saying elite. Those of you are getting triggered right now. You refuse to look at the numbers, and I don't care. I'm not going to try and convince you anymore because you don't know ball. And if you don't know ball, why am I wasting my time trying to convince you? But for those of you who do, you know Brandon Nimmo is one of the most underrated players in Major League Baseball, one of the more valuable center fielders in the game. He's not Mike Trout, but boy, oh boy, is he really good. And his defense has been getting better. We saw him play a full healthy season last year. He was incredible. He sets the lineup. He sets the table for the Mets at that leadoff position every single game. He gets on base like a beast. We started to see him hit for a little bit more power, which if that guy can unleash the power, he's a massive human being. The sky is the limit for this dude. He can be so good. This contract could be looking absolutely dirt cheap. I mean, for the next at least 3 or 4 years, Brandon Nimmo is going to be playing top center field defense along with some offense as well, which he's really good at. He's a really good hitter. That's his best thing. But his defense was so great last year. And then for that second half of the contract, maybe to a corner spot, left field. I mean, his offense is so good. It's going to be so cheap for those years that he plays elite in center field because Brandon Nimmo is elite. Now to talk about the new players they brought in, because they brought in a bunch of new ones. Quickly, David Robertson in the bullpen, a guy that a lot of Mets fans were screaming and hollering for last year during the trade deadline, ended up going to the Phillies. Looked pretty good. Is a nice little pickup for the Mets. You can never have too many bullpen arms. It looks like he is going to take over that setup man, 8th inning reliever spot that was kind of Seth Lugo's and kind of Adam Ottavino's as well last year. Robertson looks good. He looked good in Philly. I'm excited to have him in New York on the right side this time with the Mets. And we didn't have to trade anybody for him. Even better. And then, of course, the big move. Kodai Senga. 5 years, $75 million for a guy who could be really good. Now, I do want to put that asterisk. Could be really good. This could be a sneaky, amazing move, or it could just be all right. The thing with Kodai Senga is we did see a big bump in his velo last year. Conveniently lines up with when he was hitting the free agent market in the Americas for Major League Baseball. If he can hold that velocity, that's huge. That's huge because when he's sitting 96, 97, 98, that's obviously a lot better than when he's saying 93, 94, which we have seen in the past. So if the velo is real, Kodai Senga signing is going to look sick. He's also got that disgusting ghost ball, which you've heard about, which is basically a forkball splitter type pitch that just absolutely disappears out of the zones, makes hitters look absolutely foolish. The pitch is disgusting. He does not really have a breaking ball, which should be interesting to see how he adjusts because obviously the way that you play in Japan in the MPB versus how Major League Baseball played is very different. But if he can develop a breaking ball like a curveball or a slider, man, Kodai Senga could look really good. I'm super excited to see Kodai Senga make his first start for the Mets, come over to Major League Baseball, pitching in Queens. That was a really cool move, and it's also really cool to see that the Padres offered him more money, and he was like, no, I want to go to the Mets. I want to play for Uncle Stevie. Put me in the Big Apple in Queens. I want to be a Met. Now let's talk about Xander Bogaerts signing that massive contract with the Padres. 11 years, $280 million is such an insane amount. The money it's a lot. The years is more of the crazy thing because I think that signs Xander Bogaerts until he's about 40, 41 years old. Whatever, not my money. Kind of like the Mets, you gotta respect the Padres for just absolutely going for it and spending a ton of money. You saw they went after Trey Turner. You saw they went after Aaron Judge. They swung and missed on those guys. They weren't missing on Bogaerts. They said, you are coming to San Diego no matter what. You are going to be a part of this team. You're going to be a part of this roster. Welcome to San Diego. And he gets to play shortstop at least until Fernando Tatis Jr. comes back, which will be sometime in May or June, I believe. Do I think he should play shortstop over Tatis? No. As we know, the issue with Tatis has always been the throwing. The glove is phenomenal. It's just the arm is a little bit all over the place. Tries to do too much. That's his real issue in the field. But with the glove, he's got a great glove at short. I personally think Xander would fit a little bit better at second base. He's got a bit of a noodle arm. Doesn't have the greatest arm in the world. And we know his glove improved last year, but I'm interested to see what it looks like after he hit the free agent market and now got paid. We shall see with Xander. But obviously, what you get Xander Bogaerts for is that bat. And he has one of the best bats at shortstop in Major League Baseball, without a doubt. Ever since he's come up, the dude is absolutely mashed. Now, of course, you can expect some of those numbers to drop off because going from Fenway with the Green Monster to San Diego, you're not going to get nearly as many doubles bouncing it off the Monster 310 feet down the left field line as you did before. But I still fully expect that Xander Bogaerts is going to be one of those top level shortstops that we've seen over the last 5-6 years. And this is a really good move, especially because it's insurance maybe for Manny Machado if he does opt out at the end of this year, along with the fact that it could be a little bit of Fernando Tatis Jr. insurance. We know the guy does not have the best decision making by any means, so it's kind of hard to rely on that guy, which is why I think they ended up getting Bogaerts as a little bit of insurance, and he's also really good. I didn't mention it in the last video. I actually talked about Willson Contreras signing with the Cardinals, but I never gave you my thoughts and opinions, so let's go ahead and do that. Willson Contreras, 5 years, $87.5 million to sign with the St. Louis Cardinals. I don't want to call it a passing of the torch because they're very different, but a passing of the torch from Yadier Molina to Willson Contreras now, which also feels weird because they were rivals and played against each other for a bunch of years. And obviously, Yadi was a way better defensive catcher than Willson Contreras is or ever will be, but it feels like a passing of the torch in a weird way. Willson Contreras, one of the most talented catchers in baseball. The dude absolutely mashes. Yes, defensively, he is not strong, but I'm interested to see if that improves with the Cardinals because they kind of just don't really get bad defensive players. So I'm interested to see if they actually fix his catching a little bit, which could be massive to his game because at the plate, obviously, he's unbelievable. He was great this past year. This made them better than they were last year because Yadi and Kisner were not good last year. Willson Contreras, very good. Sean Manaea signed a 2-year, $25 million contract with the Giants. We saw this very similar to what Andrew Heaney got, what Jose Quintana got. Now, the last 2 years, Manaea has looked healthy through 180 innings in 2021, 150 in 2022. So you have to find this in between of getting the best stuff out of Manaea without him over pushing and getting hurt like we have seen in the past. There's things to like. There's stuff that he is good at. I mean, the guy throws strikes. He sits at a K rate at about 25-ish%. The Giants have that pitching lab. They have a pitching factory out there. I'm sure they're going to be able to tweak a few things like we saw them do with Alex Cobb, Kevin Gausman. Even got more out of Carlos Rodon, who was already good, but made him even better. I mean, they've been able to take these pitchers and really elevate their game. So I'm super interested to see what they do with Sean Manaea because it seems like he's in this weird place of not pushing it too hard, but being less effective. Because as we know, the last few years, his ERA has been a little bit high. But if he gives you 160, 150 innings for the Giants at $12.5 million a year, you're super pumped. You're super excited because that's really cheap value that you get over an entire season. I guess there's no more moves. I can't even get over this trade still. I can't get over the Sean Murphy and how little back the A's got. I can't believe it. But I'd love to know what you guys think about all the moves down in the comment section below. Where do you agree, disagree? What are you thinking? Drop a like on the video if you did enjoy it, as well as subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of the content coming at you. Follow me on all my social media at GiraffeNeckMark, links in the description. You guys know the drill from here on out. YouTube recommends you watch this video. This is my most recent upload. Click through those if you have not yet seen them. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow for another video. Bye.